They found the first body 2 days ago, a man frozen in an expression of pleasure and terror, like he had seen heaven and hell at the same time. Then another, and another. No wounds, no signs of struggle, just men dying with a smile on their lips. And the only thing they had in common, her, a woman with eyes like burning embers, a voice that slips into your mind like silken shadow, a presence that no man could resist, and no man would survive. Detective Jonas Vale thought he was hunting her, but the truth? She was already inside his head, already pulling the strings, already owning him. Now he has one last chance to stop her before she vanishes again, before another man falls victim to her touch, before he becomes just another name in her collection. But there's just one problem. You can't kill something that feeds on desire itself, because the moment you think about her, she's already won. The city never slept. Neon lights flickered, casting eerie reflections across the rain-soaked pavement. The air smelled of oil, rust, and the electric tension of a place where secrets festered in the dark. Detective Jonas Vale had seen plenty of horrors in these streets: murders, missing persons, things that made men question their sanity. But nothing like this. The first body had been found just 2 days ago, then another, then 3 more. All men, all dead in the same way, expressions frozen in pleasure and terror. Something was hunting them. And now, standing in the middle of a dimly lit alley, Jonas had finally found it. Or rather, her. She didn't belong here. She was on her hands and knees, breathing heavily, her long platinum hair plastered to her pale skin by the rain. Her body trembled, drenched in water, sweat, or maybe something darker. She looked wrong. Not like a victim, not like someone who needed help. More like a predator in disguise. But Jonas couldn't move, because when she lifted her head, when her glowing red eyes locked onto his, something deep inside him whispered a truth he wasn't ready to hear. She was not human, a voice like poison. She didn't speak at first, she just stared. Then she smiled. It wasn't the smile of someone afraid, it was knowing, calculated. "You came for me." Her voice was a whisper, yet it coiled around his mind like smoke, curling into the deepest corners of his brain. Jonas's pulse spiked, a warning signal. He should have drawn his gun. He should have demanded answers. But instead, he stepped closer. A seduction beyond logic. The rain poured harder, drowning the world in white noise. She pushed herself upright, moving with an unnatural grace, her leather-clad body glistening under the neon glow. "Do I frighten you?" she asked, tilting her head. Jonas opened his mouth, but no words came out, because she was inside his head now. Something about her didn't make sense. She was too perfect, too symmetrical. Every motion was calculated, every glance engineered to pull him in. His fingers twitched toward his gun. She saw it. She took a slow step forward. There's no need for that. The words weren't a suggestion. They were an order. And Jonas felt his hand lower, not by choice, by something else. The first victim. A noise behind them. Jonas barely had time to turn before a second man entered the alley. A lowlife, a street thug. Armed, his eyes locked onto her. And in that instant, he was lost. She didn't even have to touch him. Just one look, one single searing gaze. And his mind shattered. His lips parted. His body trembled. He took a step forward, then another. "Mine," she whispered. And Jonas watched as the man's body convulsed. A strangled gasp, his pupils dilating, his breath choking in his throat. Then silence. He collapsed to the ground, his face frozen in an expression of pure bliss. Jonas's blood ran cold. She had killed him, not with weapons, not with force, but with desire itself. The horror sets. And Jonas stumbled backward, his mind screaming to run. But her eyes were still on him, still pulling. "You're different," she mused, stepping over the fresh corpse like it was nothing. "You're still resisting." Jonas clenched his fists, his breath ragged. He had no idea what she was, But one thing was clear. She wasn't done yet. And now he was next. Jonas couldn't breathe. Not from fear, not from shock, but from her. The air itself felt thicker, like it was pressing down on his lungs, suffocating him. Not physically, but in a way he couldn't explain. Her eyes glowed brighter, locked onto his with a hunger that was far beyond human desire. Jonas had seen murderers. He had seen predators. But this was something else, something that shouldn't exist. Yet here she was, and the corpse at her feet, still twisted in an expression of euphoric horror, was proof that she was very, very real. "You're different," she repeated, taking a step toward him. Jonas willed himself to move, to run, to escape this nightmare before it was too late. But something deep inside him already knew. She wouldn't let him go. Jonas couldn't breathe, not from fear, not from shock, but from her. The air itself felt thicker, like it was pressing down on his lungs, suffocating him. Not physically, but in a way he couldn't explain. Her eyes glowed brighter, locked onto his with a hunger that was far beyond human desire. Jonas had seen murderers. He had seen predators. But this was something else, something that shouldn't exist. Yet here she was, and the corpse at her feet, still twisted in an expression of euphoric horror, was proof that she was very, very real. "You're different," she repeated, taking a step toward him. Jonas willed himself to move, to run, to escape this nightmare before it was too late. But something deep inside him already knew. She wouldn't let him go. Inside her mind. He wasn't in the alley anymore. The rain, the neon lights, the city, all gone. Jonas was floating, weightless. His mind was slipping, unraveling, dissolving into something vast, something endless. And then he saw her. Not as she was now, not as the woman in the rain, but as what she really was. An entity woven from shadow and hunger, stretching across time and space. A being that had lived for centuries, moving from world to world, feeding on those who were weak enough to want her. Jonas tried to pull back, to wake up, to escape her grip, but she held him there. "Shh," her voice echoed in his skull. "Just let go." The breaking point. Jonas slammed back into reality. He gasped, stumbling away from her, his body drenched in sweat despite the cold rain. His head pounded, his vision blurred, his body ached for her. Not because he wanted to, because she had made him. And that was the most terrifying thing of all. She didn't just seduce, she controlled. She rewrote the minds of men, twisting them into willing slaves, until their bodies gave out and they died at her feet. And he had almost become one of them. Jonas gritted his teeth. "Stay the hell away from me." She tilted her head, amused. "No!" And before he could react, she disappeared. One blink, one breath. She was just gone. But Jonas knew the truth. She wasn't running, she wasn't hiding. She was letting him go, because she already knew. He would come looking for her. They always did. Jonas barely made it home. His hands trembled against the steering wheel, his skin slick with sweat. The city lights blurred past him, neon reflections bleeding across his windshield, but he barely noticed. All he could see, all he could think about, was her, the woman, the thing, the monster in the rain. His body still felt wrong, not just tired, rewired, like she had touched something inside him and left a mark, a hunger, and it wasn't leaving. A mind under siege. Jonas slammed the door behind him, locking it, double-checking. His apartment was dark, the only light coming from the flickering street lamp outside. He stood there breathing hard, his pulse erratic. He needed to think, to clear his head. But the moment he closed his eyes, she was there. Red eyes glowing in the dark, the curve of her lips, the way her voice slithered into his mind, threading through his thoughts like silk and shadow. "You'll come looking for me." "They always do." Jonas gritted his teeth, grabbing the nearest thing, a glass on the counter, and hurling it against the wall. It shattered, shards scattering across the floor. His reflection in the window was pale, shaken, and worst of all, his hands were still shaking. A trail of corpses. He forced himself to sit down, rubbing a hand over his face. Focus, Vale, think. She wasn't just some anomaly. She was leaving a trail of bodies. And if Jonas was right, she wasn't going to stop. Pulling up his laptop, he accessed the police database. 5 men, all dead within 3 days, all found with identical expressions, pleasure twisted into agony. And all of them had one thing in common: security footage. Jonas's fingers tightened around the mouse. With a few keystrokes, he accessed the last known footage of one of the victims, a businessman found dead in a luxury penthouse 2 nights ago. The footage was grainy, low quality, but it was enough. The man entered his apartment, alone. 3 minutes passed. Then, the door opened again, and she walked in. Jonas's stomach turned. Even through the pixelated screen, he felt it. That unnatural grace, that predatory stillness. The man barely had time to react before she was on him. Not violently, not forcefully, just touching him, a hand to his cheek, a whisper in his ear. Jonas watched as the man froze. His body tensed, then relaxed. His mouth opened like he was trying to scream. But no sound came out. And then he collapsed. A lifeless husk, his face forever frozen in horrific ecstasy. Jonas slammed the laptop shut, his breath coming in ragged gasps. This wasn't seduction, this was feeding, and he had barely survived it. Hunting the huntress. Jonas exhaled slowly, forcing himself to calm down. She wanted him afraid. She wanted him obsessed. He couldn't let her win. He had to find her first. Grabbing his gun, Jonas checked the rounds, fully loaded. Not that he knew if bullets would even work on something like her, but he wasn't walking into this unarmed. One last deep breath, then he stepped back into the night. She was still out there, and this time, he wasn't the prey. The city pulsed with life, but Jonas only saw the shadows. He moved through the neon-lit streets like a ghost, his mind sharp, his senses on edge. Somewhere out here, she was hunting, and this time, he wasn't going to let her slip away. A new target. Jonas had spent the last 4 hours tracking her movements. Following the pattern of deaths, he predicted where she'd strike next. A high-end nightclub, exclusive, private, a place where rich men thought they were untouchable, and where she would find her next meal. Jonas tightened his grip on his gun as he approached the club's entrance. This is insane. He knew it. But if he let her keep feeding, if he let her keep growing, how many more would die? How long before no one could stop her? Taking a deep breath, he stepped inside. The queen among men. The club was a den of excess. Glowing drinks, throbbing bass, money and power on full display. And in the center of it all, her. Jonas's breath caught in his throat. Even knowing what she was, even feeling the lingering pull of her influence in his mind, she was still the most unnaturally beautiful thing he had ever seen. She sat in a velvet booth, surrounded by men who didn't realize they were already dead. Laughing, flirting, draining them. She hadn't touched them yet. She didn't need to. Jonas could see it happening, the slow unraveling, the way their bodies relaxed, their eyes clouding over. She was peeling them apart, cell by cell, before she even laid a hand on them, and they were loving it. Jonas clenched his jaw. Not this time. A reckless move, Jonas pushed through the crowd, his heartbeat hammering against his ribs. Her eyes flicked up, locking onto his, and for a single terrifying second, everything stopped. The music, the people, the lights. It was just her and him. Then, she smiled. "I was wondering when you come." Jonas's body tensed. A few of the men around her turned, suddenly aware of his presence. They weren't protecting her. They were defending their addiction. "Leave," she whispered to them. And just like that, they obeyed. One by one, they stood and walked away, glassy-eyed, obedient, like puppets with their strings cut. And now, they were alone. The truth in the darkness. She leaned back, watching him with amusement. "You look tired, Jonas." His fingers twitched toward his gun. "Stop saying my name like that." She tilted her head, feigning innocence. "Like what?" "Like you own it." A soft laugh. "Oh, Jonah, I already do." A chill crawled up his spine. She was playing with him, like she had played with every other man. "What are you?" Jonas demanded. Her smile faded. For the first time, she really looked at him. And when she spoke, it wasn't teasing. It wasn't seductive. It was final. "Something you were never meant to understand?" Then she reached for him. And this time, Jonas wasn't fast enough. The fall begins. Her fingers brushed his wrist, barely a touch. But it was enough. A rush of heat, cold, euphoria, terror. Jonas's vision blurred, his mind fractured. He was floating, drowning. He could feel himself slipping. And in the distance, her voice, soft and merciless. "Let go!" And for the first time, Jonas almost wanted to. Jonas was falling. Not physically. No, his body was still standing, frozen inches away from her. But his mind, his thoughts, they were sinking into something deep, something endless. Her touch was barely there, just her fingertips against his wrist. But it was enough. His pulse slowed, his breath hitched. And in the space of a single heartbeat, she pulled him in. Inside the abyss, Jonas's world shattered into 1,000 pieces. The club, the neon lights, the pounding bass, gone. He was somewhere else, a place without shape, without color, without rules, a void. No, not a void, a prison. And she was inside it with him. Her form shifted, no longer human, no longer needing to be. She stood before him, something vast and unknowable, her red eyes burning through the darkness. "You keep chasing me, Jonas," she murmured. Her voice wasn't a sound anymore. It was a presence, wrapping around his thoughts, sinking into his skull like hooks under his skin. "Do you even know why?" Jonas clenched his teeth, his body locked in place. He could still feel her in his head, pulling at his thoughts, rewriting them, changing him. "Get out," he growled. She laughed, the sound like a ripple through reality. "Jonas, I'm not in your head." She took a step closer, and the darkness shuddered. "You're in mine." The horrors that came before Jonas's pulse spiked. He wasn't just trapped. He was inside her mind. And for the first time, he realized this wasn't the first time it had happened. The other men, the ones who had died smiling, they had been here too, and none of them had ever made it out. Jonas forced his body to move, to resist, to break free. But then he saw the memories, not his, hers, a flood of images, raw and violent, crashing into him like a tidal wave. Planets burning, cities drowned in red light, men and women, thousands, maybe millions, worshiping her, craving her, dying for her. And at the center of it all, her, the devourer, the siren, the unmaker. She had gone by many names across many worlds, and every time it ended the same way. She took everything, and then she moved on. Jonas fights back. Jonas's breathing turned ragged. He had to get out, now. "You're different, Jonas," she murmured. He felt her hands on his face, his chest, everywhere and nowhere at once. "You haven't broken yet." Jonas let out a shaky breath. No, he wasn't like the others. He wasn't going to let her win. With every ounce of strength, he tore himself free. Reality snapped back, and suddenly, he was back in the club. His lungs screamed for air. His legs buckled. He nearly fell, but he was out, and she was still standing there, watching him, amused. "That was close," she whispered. Jonas raised his gun. This time, he wasn't hesitating. He pulled the trigger. Jonas fired. The gunshot cracked through the air, louder than the music, louder than the storm raging inside his head. A perfect shot, center mass. The bullet hit dead on, and then it stopped, just an inch from her chest. It hung there, suspended in the air, spinning lazily as if caught in invisible fingers. Jonas's stomach dropped. No, 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 no. Her lips curled into a slow, knowing smile. She exhaled, soft, almost playful. The bullet disintegrated into dust. Jonas's blood turned to ice. The predator unleashed. She took a step forward. Jonas stepped back. His grip on the gun tightened, but deep down, he already knew. It wouldn't matter. "Jonas," she whispered, voice thick with amusement. "You still think this is a fight?" His pulse hammered. The men around them were staring, not at her, at him, like he was the problem, like he was interrupting something they wanted. Her pull was already working on them, already rewiring their minds just like she had tried to do to him. Jonas's fingers twitched toward his second clip, armor-piercing rounds, but she only laughed. "Oh, Jonas, you're adorable." And then she moved, a touch worse than death. Jonas barely had time to react before she was in front of him. 1 second, she was 3 feet away. The next, her hand was on his chest, a whisper of contact, a barely there touch. And yet, his entire body locked up. The air was suddenly too thick. His blood felt heavy. His breath came in ragged gasps, his limbs screaming to move. But they wouldn't, couldn't. "Feel that?" she murmured. Her fingers pressed against his heart, soft yet crushing. That's what it feels like to be owned. Jonas's vision blurred. No, 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 no. He wouldn't become one of them. He refused. With the last shred of strength left in his body, he moved, not away, forward, and headbutted her. The fall of a goddess. It wasn't a perfect hit. He was weak, sluggish, but it was enough. Her grip loosened for just a second. Jonas wrenched himself free, stumbling back, gasping for air. She blinked. For the first time, she looked surprised. Then something else. Amusement. No, interest. "You really are different." Jonas didn't give her time to recover. He lunged, grabbing the nearest thing, a broken glass from a table, and he plunged it into her stomach. The impact sent a shockwave through the air. Her body jerked, her glowing eyes widening for the briefest moment. Then darkness erupted from the wound. Not blood, something else. Something black and pulsing, like the void of space made flesh. The club went silent, and for the first time, she staggered. Jonas's chest heaved, adrenaline crashing through him. Did he hurt her? Her hands went to the wound, fingers trembling. She looked at them, at the darkness oozing between her fingers. Then slowly, she looked at him, and she smiled. "Well, that's never happened before." Jonas stood there panting, his fingers still wrapped around the broken glass buried in her stomach. The club was silent. The men around them weren't watching. They were waiting for her to move, to react, to end him. But she didn't. Not yet. Instead, she tilted her head, her red eyes flickering with something Jonas couldn't quite place. Not pain, not anger, curiosity. She looked down at her wound, at the black pulsing liquid oozing from her body, thick like ink, shifting like smoke. And then she laughed. "Jonas," she murmured, voice dripping with amusement. "Do you think you've won?" His pulse spiked. The darkness moved, like it was alive. It slithered out of her wound, crawling up the glass, twisting around Jonas's fingers, curling over his wrists like tendrils of sentient shadow. Jonas yanked his hand away. The darkness followed, and then it reached into him. Consumed by the void, Jonas's world collapsed. His body locked, his vision faded. He was being pulled inside her, not physically, no, something deeper. His mind, his thoughts, his very soul. For a fleeting second, he felt everything. The endless hunger, the thousands, millions of minds she had devoured before him. And the truth, she wasn't a parasite. She wasn't some simple predator looking for prey. She was something worse, something that became stronger with every man who fell for her. Every kiss, every touch, Every thought about her fed her. And Jonas had spent days thinking about her, had spent hours chasing her, had spent his very breath fighting her. And that had only made her stronger. Poor Jonas, her voice whispered inside his mind. You didn't stop me. You gave me exactly what I needed. Jonas's breath hitched. No. She wasn't dying. She was evolving. The final transformation. The darkness exploded outward. Jonas was thrown back, crashing into a table as the shadows tore through the club. The air shook. The walls cracked. Men collapsed, gasping, clutching their heads as her power unleashed in full force. And at the center of it all, she stood, no longer human, no longer pretending to be, her form stretched, shifting, twisting. A thing of pale skin and writhing black tendrils, of burning red eyes and a mouth that no longer belonged to any mortal thing. She wasn't wearing a body anymore. She was the hunger itself, and Jonas, he was nothing. The final choice. Jonas forced himself to stand. His limbs ached, his vision swam, his mind screamed for a way out. There wasn't one, not unless he made it. His eyes darted to his gun, then to the club's emergency gas lines. One shot, one spark, and everything burns. His fingers trembled. She was watching him now, waiting, daring him. Go on, she purred, her voice an echo of every whisper she had ever spoken into his mind. Do it, Jonas exhaled and pulled the trigger. The end, or the beginning. Flames erupted. The club detonated in a blast of searing heat, glass and steel ripping apart in an instant. Jonas barely had time to register the impact before he was thrown backward, his body colliding with the pavement outside. Smoke, fire, screams, and in the wreckage, she was gone. Jonas gasped, staring at the inferno, his hands trembling. Had he done it? Had he actually killed her? Then, a whisper. Jonas. His blood turned to ice. The fire flickered. The shadows moved. And from the smoke, two glowing red eyes stared back at him. She was still alive, and she was smiling. You'll never stop me. Then, darkness, and she was gone. Jonas collapsed to the ground, heart pounding, lungs burning. She had left, but not because he had beaten her. No, because she had already won. And now, she was somewhere else, hunting, waiting. And Jonas, he was still thinking about her, still feeding her. And that terrified him more than anything else.